We are doing the accountability talk on the article Many Educators Fear 13 Reasons Why is Sending Mixed Messages to Teens. It's by Washington Post, adapted by News ELA staff on May 9th, 2017.
The first thing that gets me about this article is that many people can connect to this because so many teachers have watched this, and I've even watched it myself and read the book.
Yeah, so have I. So, this is a really familiar topic for me and you.
Yeah. And on the first page, in the first paragraph, it says, adults are worried that watching the show could be particularly harmful to students who are struggling with mental illness. Many other people can connect with this because many high schoolers battle with depression and mental illnesses.
Yeah, exactly. And they struggle with their mental stability too.
Yeah.
In the second paragraph on the first page, it says that the show has promoted a major response from administrators and educators. They have spoken at PTA meetings, sent messages home, and even cautioned certain groups of students against watching the series at all. And I just have a question on what they mean by certain groups of students, because there are many different cliques in high school, and I'm just unsure of what ones they're talking about.
So what I think about when they say certain groups, I think that they're talking about, the mental illness groups. The ones who have the depression and the ones who have, the anxiety and, things like that, those certain groups.
Okay, thank you for explaining that.
Mm-hmm.
In the third paragraph, it says that Rebecca Aguilar oversees school counselors at Thorold Middle School in Fairfax County, Virginia. And I don't understand what she says by overseas school counselors.
What I think it's trying to say is that she talked to the school counselors because it continues to talk about how she sent home a list of talking points, so maybe she talked to the school counselors about sending home the list of points.
Okay, that makes sense. And one thing that surprised me in that sentence was she said she oversees the school counselors at Thorold Middle School in Fairfax County. And I just think that's really surprising because it's middle school and that's a really young age group.
So what you're saying is you're not surprised it's high school?
Yeah, I feel like it should be high school and not middle school. I'm not saying that kids in middle school can't be depressed, but to me, it seems like high schoolers would be the ones that are more focused on.
Yeah, I agree that that is a really young age group. In the same paragraph, it says, she told parents to stay engaged with their children, and if they are watching it, process it with them. I think that is a very good idea to do. Because some parents don't even know what their kids are watching and don't pay attention to that. And, major things like this, they need to stay engaged and process it with them.
Yeah, that's very true, because I think parents, it's really important for them to talk to their kids. Being, a teenager, I think it's really important for my parents to talk to me and just, when we talk about my school day, I just really like it, and it just helps me with some stuff and gets it off my chest. So I think when kids don't have that relationship with their parents, they don't really have anyone to talk to. So I feel like parents really need to start talking to their kids.
Mm-hmm. Also in that same paragraph, it's going back, it says that Rebecca oversees school counselors and she sent home a list of talking points advising parents about the show. I just want to know what those talking points are. It makes me want to know what the talking points are, and I think they should have included it in the article.
Yeah, that's a good point, because if they included it in the article, then we could have understood what she was talking about, and parents who read this article, if they didn't because it says in Virginia, so not the whole world could see the talking points, and parents who don't live in Virginia, I feel like they should be able to see the talking points so they know how to talk to their kids and what to talk about and how to communicate with them.
Yeah, it could just overall help other people.
I agree.
In the second page, in the first paragraph, it says that Robert is the superintendent of Palm Beach County Schools in Florida. He said that teachers and counselors at the schools have seen more students in elementary and middle schools engaging in self-harm behaviors. My first question about that paragraph is, how do they know it's from that show?
Yeah, exactly, because this show could be really triggering to some kids, but some kids may not have even seen that show, so they don't know if they actually are depressed because of that show.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Another question I have about that same statement is, what about high school? They only mention elementary and middle school. Middle schoolers, and they just never mention high school.
Yeah, that's a really good point because I feel like this is more of a show that high schoolers watch instead of middle schoolers. So I don't know why they wouldn't put high school in this article, but there's still another half page, so we'll see.
Yeah, especially talking about elementary though.
Yeah, that's true. In the second paragraph on the second page, it says students involved in the recent incidents have articulated associates of their at-risk behavior to the 13 Reasons Why Netflix series, he said. And I'm confused on what the word articulated means.
What I think it means is that they talked about their at-risk behavior.
Okay, that makes sense, but I'm also confused on what at-risk behavior means. Could you explain that to me?
What I think it means is their mental stability behavior and like what they're doing and putting their actions towards when they are feeling mentally ill.
So what you're saying is that the students involved in the recent incidents have talked about associations of their mental stability behavior to the 13 Reasons Why Netflix series?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Thanks for explaining that.
Does that make sense to you now?
Yes.
Okay. On the third paragraph in the second page, it says Netflix has added warnings to the show and put together a documentary about how the series was made. The documentary is called Behind the Reasons. I'm just wondering is how come it's such a big deal if they made warnings and the documentary?
Well, maybe some people haven't even seen the documentary or missed the warnings in the show, so.
But especially with the warnings, they're in every episode at the beginning and I'm pretty sure at the end too.
So what you're saying is that even though they have the warnings in it, they don't need to make such a big deal about it?
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
And in that same paragraph, it says, in it, the actors and writers say that they talked with mental health professionals about how they handled some parts of the show. I don't get why if the actors and actresses have to go to professionals, then why is it okay for kids to watch?
Exactly, especially because the actors and actresses are trained for that job and they know what's coming and they know how to handle these situations, and kids aren't. So it shouldn't be okay for the kids to watch because they aren't trained to handle situations like this, and their capability of taking all of that in is just going to be so overwhelming for them.
Exactly, especially because they're talking about elementary and middle schoolers.
Exactly, and not like high schoolers.
Even with high schoolers, I feel like it's still
like a big deal.
A big deal, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then in the fourth paragraph on the second page, it says, Kathy Owens said that it was the first time the association has put out guidelines in response to a television program. I think this is a really surprising fact that they put in here because it's like surprising considering how many other shows have such similar scenes.
Could you give me an example of like a movie or TV show?
A huge example that I can think of at the top of my head is probably the movie Cyberbully. A lot of people have seen that movie, and it's basically about the girl who she commits suicide, and it shows everything that it does that 13 Reasons Why shows.
Okay, that's a good point.
And there was never like guidelines out there because of that show, and it's basically the same thing.
Yeah, I don't get why they did it for 13 Reasons Why and not for that movie, because I've seen that movie too.
Exactly. And then, following that sentence, it says, she said that many experts are concerned about that the show might cause other students to want to follow the main character's actions. I'm just curious, when it says other students, is that enough to cancel the show? Like, is there enough students wanting to do the same things to cancel it?
I feel like if they had enough people who had these feelings or came out about it, about the show mentally like hurting them or just triggering their senses, that they should cancel it, because this show actually made me cry, so I do think it could impact others.
Oh, okay. So you're thinking about it differently. I think they just worded it wrong then with how you explained it to me.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad I helped you.
Thank you. And in that same paragraph, it says the warning said that the show's powerful storytelling might cause some viewers to romanticize the main character's choices. I 100% agree that the show is romanticized by, like, 100%. I think that it really romanticizes the fact of suicide, and that's what is making people feel more connected to it, I guess.
I agree, but on the other hand, I don't think it actually romanticizes suicide, but it definitely shows it off too much. But I also think it romanticizes the way that she, like, the reasons why she killed herself and what the people reacted with.
What do you mean by the reasons why?
Well, what I'm saying is that I think they romanticized the reasons why she killed herself, like how the reasons affected her friends more than it actually affected her. And at the end, her parents were so devastated by it that it kind of tore them apart.
Oh, okay. So you're just saying, like, the reasons were small.
Yeah, basically.
Oh, okay. I get that.
In the 5th paragraph on the 2nd page, it says that the show traces the perils and eventual death of a teenager named Hannah. Before her death, she sent 13 cassette tapes to friends and acquaintances, explaining in detail how they contributed to her downfall. And going back on what I said earlier, it's just, to me, they seemed like they were small reasons that could give other kids more reasons to hurt themselves. Just because they were so small, I feel like they weren't very affecting her, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
I really understand what you're trying to say. But on the other hand, like, what if they changed the reasons?
I feel like if they changed the reasons to bigger reasons, it'd make the show more understandable and we wouldn't be so conflicted on why she killed herself for the little small reasons.
Yeah, I agree with that too, but, like, if she changed them to bigger reasons, it could either go worse or it could go better.
Yeah, I agree, because if the reasons were worse, then the kids would be, like, more offended, I guess, by it and triggered. So it's just a what if type thing.
Yeah. On the last paragraph in the 2nd page, the title is trying to identify mental illness, and it says experts say that often mental illness is what leads to suicide. Mental illness refers to a range of mental health conditions which are disorders that can affect mood, thoughts, and behavior. This title is confusing because I feel like more than mental illness can affect mood, thoughts, and behavior, because we're teenagers and everyone has those days, and girls go through things like the menstrual cycle and, like, just things like that. So I don't think the title really fits with identifying mental illness when talking about mood, thoughts, and behavior.
Yeah, I agree, because anything can affect your mood just, like, at any time. So it's not just having a mental illness that is, like, affecting yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Concluding the whole article, I have a couple what ifs, and one of them was, what if they took out the actual suicide scene? Because that's actually really upsetting to me, and I'm not mentally incapable in any way that I think. And for kids that could find this triggering to themselves, I just don't think it's a good idea to keep it in there. And I feel like they should take it out and just have, like, a resemblance of it, kind of, instead of showing the actual scene.
I agree with that, like, by 100% that they should really take it out, especially because it's so graphic. Like, they show everything.
Another one that I have was, what if they take the show down and keep the book instead, but make it so that you have to be 18 to buy the book? Because if they took the show down, there wouldn't be so much conflict and confusion, and it wouldn't be such a problem, and we wouldn't need to have, like, PTA meetings at schools and have counselors come in, I would think.
Yeah, I agree with that too, that, like, by removing the show and keeping the book, it would be fine, because the book was less graphic. It didn't talk about the suicide scene at all. It just talked about the reasons. So, like, with removing the show, it removes all the gruesome of the reasons.
Yeah, I like how you said that.
My whole thing about this whole article that really kind of made me question it is that there was no actual facts in this whole entire thing.
Yeah, that's true, because it didn't really talk about, like, anything being so true, and, like, they didn't give facts, and, like, graphs and stuff.
Yeah, I don't really understand, like, how they can make a whole article with none of the facts supporting it and following it up.
Yeah, exactly. You are cut off. Thanks for tuning in.